Two personalities are better than one. Here's your look at the new DC Collectibles Batman the Animated Series, figure number 45, Two-Face. For DC Collectibles' newest release, they actually go back to Batman the Animated Series, having already received the new Batman Adventures Two-Face in a previous wave. I suppose the first thing we'll do is measure off how tall Two-Face is, just so that you guys can see, or at least know, how tall the figure is going to stand on your shelf. It's the least I can do. It's a service I'm willing to provide free of charge. The tape measure, the Ultra Measure-Tron 5000, tells me that the Two-Face figure, the new Two-Face figure from DC Collectibles, stands rather impressively at 6.2 inches in height. Which in centimeters, let me go ahead and do that, 15.7, a little over 15.5 centimeters tall. For a couple of size comparisons, here he is next to Hardak, one of the figures that shares this wave. I was able to have a look at Hardak, the Grey Ghost, and Scarecrow in previous reviews. Had to source out and find Two-Face at a later date. I just wasn't available at the time. So there's the size difference between the two. They fit in rather well to one another. Hardak, being still a Batman figure, is a little bit taller than Two-Face. And I'm sure also the obvious comparisons that you guys wanted to see, involving me to go in and find this in storage, because I didn't have them out on display initially, was the original the new Batman Adventures Two-Face. Don't worry. We'll do some comparisons with those guys in a second. But you'll see that Two-Face, the new one, is a little broader than the new Batman Adventures Two-Face. He also is a little bit taller as well. And don't worry, we'll do some comparisons to those. For the figure's accessories, Two-Face comes included with one of his trademark Tommy guns. I really shouldn't say trademark. Many of the gangsters in the original Batman animated series all seem to tout and sport Tommy guns. And this is done in just a standard gray plastic. It doesn't look like there has any additional paint to it, just cast in gray plastic, which is perfectly fine. It does actually fit around both of his hands. Leave that idea with me. I'll follow up with that. But it is, again, a really neat looking weapon. I suppose any one of the previous Batman Animated Series figures you can switch and swap out to any one of the new figures that you may pick up. So even though he doesn't really come with any other weapons, excluding, of course, the stick of dynamite, we'll talk about that in a second, you could probably even use one of the other weapons, maybe even the one that came with the new Batman Adventures Two-Face, as a contender for something else you want to display with this figure. Speaking of other weapons, at least, he comes with also a stick of dynamite. A rather large stick of dynamite. I haven't really even counted out the number of sticks. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm assuming if those are about 11 sticks inside, it doesn't really matter. It's taped off, that does matter. And there's also a fuse there as well to make it go bang bang. He doesn't have necessarily... Well, he has one hand to hold it, but it doesn't hold it in the way that you would think it would hold it. I thought it would actually pry open and fit around the full length of it. Actually, what it ends up doing, let me just find the section here. There we go. It kind of even fits just really around at several of the sticks. Not completely around. It's definitely not going anywhere. You could do the blizzard test and it's going to stay in place. But he doesn't actually hold it completely around. I think initially I thought, getting it out of packaging, that the hand would clamp around the full length or full width of it. And instead, actually, that's not the case. It just sort of ledges itself on a couple of the sticks. But like I said, it stays in place. It's not going to go anywhere. Now, here is the problem I have with the figure. Speaking of things not going anywhere, one thing that the figure does come included with... he comes with his coin, and I'm going to just put it on my finger. You can see it's slightly distorted. Maybe you can see it's slightly distorted. There it is right there. That's going to get lost. In fact, actually, between the moments of taking it out of the packaging, there it is right there, and putting it out on display for the review, I was certain I was going to lose it. I would not do the blizzard test for this one bit. The thing is, though, I don't know why they... It's nice that they include it as a separate coin. There it is right there again. Sure, it's great that they include it as a separate coin. The thing about it, though, is guaranteed it's going to get lost immediately. Immediately, as soon as this video is finished, I'll likely lose it. I don't even want to be so negative about this whole situation, but I really I'm also a realist, and I know something that small is going to get lost. The thing that was smart about the new Batman Adventures Two-Face, they actually sculpted the coin into his hand. I mean, you could do the Blizzard test until the cows come home. That coin isn't going anywhere. Really, just one extra hand flat like this with the coin in place would, I think, have been a fine solution instead of actually, I mean, you could take one of the hands, like say, for example, the hand for the Dynamite. Very carefully put the coin on there, and yeah, he does hold the coin. But yeah, the Blizzard test of tipping that upside down. By the way, if you don't know what the Blizzard test is, if you ever go to Dairy Queen and get a Blizzard, they'll usually, or back in the day, used to tip it upside down and shake it over top of the unfortunate child that's asked for the Blizzard. And 99.99% of the time, I don't think the Blizzard went anywhere. There was probably one time it just went everywhere, all over the kid's head, shoulders, and everything else, that they probably, I don't think they do it anymore. Or if they do it, they kind of do it over by the kitchen, and they just quickly go like this, and they say, here you go. Anyway, that's a Blizzard test. That coin would not survive the Blizzard test. That's going to get lost immediately. So again, I kind of wish, stressing for the fact that, once again, bringing in the other figure, why they couldn't have just simply sculpted the coin into the hand. That's not going to go anywhere. That's, again, you could do that all day long until somebody finally calls you for dinner. That's not going to be going anywhere. Okay, so, and then he also comes with a series of interchangeable hands. A pair of closed fists, which is fine. For all the cool things, he does come with the stick of dynamite, the Tommy gun, the coin. I really wouldn't ever see myself wanting to display him with closed fists, but the folks over at DC Collectibles provide it nonetheless. And those are all your accessories. Just to also show you how to change out the hands. We've seen this on frequent videos before. We're just going to wiggle off the hand just like so. Pop the new hand in, making sure, of course, you got the right side. Blue side goes on one side, flesh side goes on the other side, or thumbsies go in is another good way to remember. Also want to show you as well that the Tommy gun does fit into his hand, like that. And you can either have it in one hand, or you know what, on the other hand, literally, I should have actually kept the other hand in place, just to show you. Just wiggle that back in, just wiggle that into the socket. He does have the means, actually. Whoops, he does have the means, actually. There you go, just get the handle in there. He does actually have the means to hold the Tommy gun with both hands. Oh, that's so cool. Probably going to be how I'm going to display this figure. Just want to show you that it is possible. I'm, again, all about giving you guys as much information in these reviews as I possibly can. And yes, in fact, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus. You can display Two-Face with both hands holding the Tommy gun. Okay, so we'll take that all off. Spent some much needed time talking about the accessories. Some of the things I didn't like necessarily, again, was the coin. Let's do some comparisons, because I know you guys are all about wanting to see comparisons. So, like, looking at the two figures side by side, there's definitely a very much of a broader build for the new Two-Face versus the older Two-Face. There's definitely more of an hourglass figure. Probably not something you would want to use to describe a male figure, but there's definitely a very distinct shape to it. Whereas the new Batman Adventures had very much a triangular, or even if you want to consider it like a letter Y shape to it. This Two-Face definitely has more form, more curves, if you will. I still kind of like the new Two-Face, in all honesty. I just kind of like the more sleek look to it, even though technically it was the exact same body, the same suit, I should say. The two head sculpts are very much different to one another. They still carry the same blue-white hair, blue face, white hair, and then, of course, the human face, the more unscarred face, even though anyone could easily say that Harvey Dent is scarred, no matter who you're talking to, Two-Face or Harvey Dent, both are very much scarred individuals. The eyes are very much different as well. The larger yellow eye to the left versus the very a little bit smaller white eye on the right. The lips are a little bit different as well. Again, they took some changes to the new Batman Adventure villains versus what we had gotten with the Batman animated series. The figures are very much different in height as well. The new Two-Face is a lot taller than the original release here. And also something that this one also adopts now too is the new leg articulation, which is something that unfortunately the older figures didn't have. A very much a noticeable pin joint was happening here on the legs, and I always just found these were really stiff to want to move out. They also were single hinges on the knees, which often at times, and I have a few examples of that, where I've got figures that have just extremely loose knees. Double ball joints or double hinge joints are really the best way to go because it guarantees longevity to those joints. Thank goodness that they've now started implementing that for newer figures. So you've got 2 hinge joints in the knee, and it keeps things all relatively tight, and everything's good to go there. This one here also does have like a bit of a slightly softer rubber suit here. Obviously, it's not something you can take off, but I like the contrast once again in the Batman animated series Two-Face, where you had the contrast of the black and the white, and then the alternating black and white shirt, and then the alternating black and white tie. Again, just a really great head sculpt. It very much looks like the animated series, and it also looks a lot like, oh, isn't that rather interesting, the Kenner original Batman Two-Face, which, ironically enough, actually was a bigger, broader, kind of chunkier looking Two-Face. I don't want to say necessarily this one is chunky, but like I said, comparing it to the new Batman Adventures Two-Face, there's definitely a very much a different shape to their bodies. Posability on this guy, let's go ahead and do that right now. His head rotates all the way around. It hinges up and down. Does not rock back and forth, though. The arms rotate all the way around. They hinge out. He has a bend at the elbow. Those same bends and elbows also allow the forearms to rotate, and also the hands rotate back and forth and hinge back and forth as well. A waist swivel, legs split out. You can see how the ball joint system now works. I prefer ball joints myself versus those hinge joints. The thigh swivels at the top, cut of the thigh, basically right there it swivels. We've already discussed the double hinge on the knee. The feet also hinge back and forth, and they also have an ankle pivot. I'm all about ankle pivots. Gone are also the days of the figures utilizing those white display stands. Yeah, they did look good, but one of the problems also that came with them is, like, equally so, those display stands also suffered from really loose components, specifically like that waist clip often slid up and down on the pole all on its own, not controlled by demons or ghosts, I would imagine, or maybe, but still that waist clip would slide up and down just because they got really, really loose. And so I'm kind of glad actually that they dismissed utilizing those. What's funny though is that this Two-Face, if you look at like Hardak, for example, out of nowhere he comes into the camera once again, he's got a peg hole on the underside of his feet. If you look at Two-Face, however, he doesn't have a peg hole on the underside of his feet. I don't know, not really sure why. Some figures have it, some figures don't, but at the very least, at least this Two-Face has a much better stance to him than, unfortunately, the one from the new Batman Adventures, which most of the time, especially for the fact he's got such small feet, these older figures were much more difficult to stand. Unfortunately, then, utilizing those display stands, which I really wasn't a big fan of at all anyways. If we can get just Two-Face to stand next to himself. 2 halves, and I guess 2 figures. Does that make 2 holes? I don't know. Either way, though, there are the 2 figures side by side. Even though, again, I like the new Batman Adventures Two-Face maybe just a little bit more. I think the new version of Two-Face, even though ironically enough it's the older Two-Face, I think is a much better figure overall. Two-Face still remains to be one of my favorite Batman in the Rogues gallery. It might have something to do with the fact that he's got the half and half personality. I'm a Gemini myself, of course, the twins, the 2 halves. So there's probably maybe a connection as to why I like this villain so much. One of my favorite incarnations of Two-Face was from the original Batman animated series. I did at one point own the Kenner version of Two-Face, but long since sold that. So this is kind of a nice upgrade. Speaking of nice upgrades, love the fact that DC Collectibles are utilizing new mechanics and kind of new constructions for their figures. It's a bit of a shame though, because the newer figures with the new leg articulation that they've utilized and new ball joint systems in their thighs, kind of wish they could go back and kind of give a new coat of paint, if you will, to some of the older figures that we've had collected up to this point. These figures definitely feel a little bit more stable, and you can definitely see they just feel a little bit more heavy, and they look a little bit more proportioned than the very lanky nature of some of the characters, especially the Two-Face from the new Batman Adventures. is one of the best examples of those very thin, lanky figures that we had gotten before. They look like their cartoon counterparts, but unfortunately with the single hinges in the knees, often at times led those figures to be becoming really loose over time. So I really am all for, I'm advocating for the fact that we can hopefully get more of the figures in the double hinge joints in the knees. Maybe that's probably what they're going to be doing with the figures moving forward. Two-Face is, like I said, a really great looking design. Still kind of like the new Batman Adventures design of Two-Face, maybe just a little bit more, but still, this version of Two-Face is one of my all-time favorites, and I think it's been handled in true service by the folks over at DC Collectibles. Now, if you guys are interested in picking this one up for yourself, the new Batman Animated Series, number 45, I believe that was the figure number for Two-Face, should be available now at your local comic book stores. In fact, actually, I found this one at my local comic book store, so there you go. Proof is in the pudding. This guy found it at his local comic book store. You should be able to do the same as well. Let me know what you guys think down below of the new Batman Animated Series. I'm adding new to everything. The new Batman Animated Series, number 45, Two-Face figure. Let me know down below what you guys think of the figure. Just an FYI as well. I don't really know why they had the coin as a separate piece. That coin should have been part of the hand. I'm looking at it right now, and I'm just thinking, after this review's done, something's going to happen. A big gush of wind, maybe a tornado is going to rip through this room, and that coin is going to be gone. So, for what time we've spent together, little tiny coin, just know that you'll be with me forever. You'll be kind of my Wilson to the Tom Hanks. You'll be my little coin. It'll get lost, and I'll forever be thinking about you, little tiny coin. Sidetracking myself here, guys, what do you think of the new Two-Face? Let me know down below whether you picked it up for yourself or, based on this review and this review alone, what you guys think of the new Two-Face figure. Let me know down below. Speaking of down below, if you guys are new to this channel, or if longtime viewers and just never got around to hitting that subscribe button, why not do it now? Make this a half New Year's resolution. It's not quite a full year's resolution because we're halfway through the year, but make this a New Year's resolution that you're going to follow this guy's channel more on a regular basis. And the best way to do that is hitting that subscribe button and turning on your bell notifications to full. Stay tuned because we're going to have some more videos coming up, a whole ton of stuff coming your way. I know what's coming your way. You don't know what's coming your way, but just know there's a whole bunch of cool videos coming your way. So stay tuned to this channel and keep your eyes, I'm not even going to say it. Not going to say it. Thanks for watching, guys, as you always do, and I'll see you guys next time.